Hello, friends, and welcome to FM On Demand with Tara Fitzpatrick, Food Management Magazine's podcast. I'm, of course, your host, Tara Fitzpatrick, and today I hope that this podcast gets a lot of buzz. I don't think I made too many puns, but it's a great conversation with FLIK Hospitality's chef Will Pfeiffer. He's at IBM's conference center in New York, and he has just done so much making these beehives, custom made beehives. He worked with a local beekeeper. He was a chef before he got into the bee thing, but he was like a novice with beekeeping. And just the way that he learned, I think is really inspirational for all of us, like learning new skills. Like, for example, I'm learning how to juggle. You can see the little squares behind there. My daughter's learning too. She's getting a little quicker than me because I just want to be able just to bust out. But anyway, so it's like if you're interested in beekeeping, so much information here. Not to mention the way that he's using honey on the menu. But I think it's also interesting if you just want to do something new, just shake things up a little bit and just always learn. I think it's a wonderful way to be. Sorry. Thank you. And please enjoy. Welcome, Will. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
And yeah, we are going to get into a little bit more later, but I want to just first see what's behind you. Tell us about this amazing display that you have going on, because it looks like it's better than a science fair.
Yeah, so I didn't want to overwhelm you either, but I felt like due to the circumstances, it was important to showcase, the information we provided at our first inaugural honey harvest. So it's pretty much basic information, and these are stations we had last night for our guests, all of our clients, corporate clients, customers, friends, family. It really was a celebration of the property.
So
And
cool.
yeah, it was such a monumental event. We had Jenna, we had everybody there, we had our staff, and it was a celebration of what our property has accomplished as a team. And that was one of the biggest focuses that I could say we took from this team building. We
Mm-hmm.
incorporated everybody to work as a unit and accomplish the one common goal, which was becoming a more sustainable property.
Yes. And there's some parallels there because the bees work together as a team too. So I'm sure that
You're
hasn't escaped your notice.
You're spot on about that, and that's one thing that was so fascinating to me when I first started learning about the honeybees and working under a mentor, an
Yeah.
actual beekeeper. So we have some basic knowledge, the different types of bees, the queen bee, the worker bee, the drone bee, the male, the process of laying eggs, how long the lifespan is, what each role of the bee in the colony does. From the day they're born, they have that specific role that they are
Mm-hmm.
tasked with. And then after 6 days, they go on to a new role. After another 6 days, they go on to a new role from foraging for nectar,
Yeah.
caring for the larva. So it's a
But they're
whole
always
yeah,
busy, busy
yeah, we're
bees.
always busy, always busy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was
So
very
cool. So people kind of were able to just like wander around, take a look at this. And isn't
yeah,
there, is that one of the frames back there or
yeah. So this is an actual frame of honey that we spun last night. That came directly out of our beehives.
so cool. And I think that's one of my questions that we could maybe ask was about was
Sure.
it spinning? Yes, the inaugural spinning process this is what you guys were celebrating. So I
Yeah.
have been on a few like tours and I like to think I know a little bit about it, but like always learning more. I don't know what that means. What's the inaugural spinning?
So pretty much the project started last year. I'll kind of get into the story, which
Oh
will
yeah,
lead to
please.
that.
Yeah.
So in May of last year, I had a conversation with one of our corporate chefs. And as you know, chefs, we're always looking to innovate. We're always looking to
Hmm.
find that next wow factor, right? For our guests. So was having a conversation with one of our corporate chefs. His name's Danny, and he was telling me, he's like, Chef, I just did an awesome event where I put a whole honeycomb
Ooh,
at the cheese station where we had our
love it.
chefs carving that fresh comb off. And he was like, it blew people out of the water.
Mhm.
So he's like, listen, I think you should try and source some local honey, and maybe you could incorporate that. into one of your events. Okay, done. I was like, I hit
Yeah.
the horn. I was like, Google where local beekeepers. So I came across a local beekeeper literally within 2 miles of the property.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. I reached out to him and I tried to build that connection. I explained to him that I was a chef and that I
Uh-huh.
really wanted to incorporate that super, super hyper local honey,
Very local. Yeah.
very local, into our menus. And since he was a hobbyist, not a commercial beekeeper,
Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
more a little skeptical.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't really have this abundance of honey to sell.
Yeah. He was like, I'm just here, just doing this like for my family and friends type
Yeah,
thing.
exactly,
Okay. Yeah.
exactly. And
Mm-hmm.
until you actually dissect a beehive in a colony, you don't understand how hard, how much work goes into producing.
Oh, yeah.
And when I finally understood that, I realized why our initial conversation was like that between me and him.
Right.
He was reluctant to just
Yeah,
sell.
like, oh, sure. Like, here you go. It's like he wanted you to understand this is serious business. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, I pressed him a little longer
Mm-hmm.
and he kind of gave me the option. He said, listen, if you want to come over and see how the hives operate, I'll teach you
Okay.
and I'll give you a little sample.
Nice.
Sure. I signed up and then I started going every single week. And he was retired, so he actually enjoyed it and he became my new
Nice.
mentor.
Very cool. He
Yeah,
he was giving something back to the bees at the end of his bee journey, at the
yeah,
end of his career. So cool.
exactly. So I had just taken on a new mentor, and once a week I was for about 4 or 5 months I was going to his house and training pretty much
Yeah, yeah.
a beekeeper.
What surprised you the most about it during that time? Like what your expectation or something that just really surprised you about that?
I just it was when you open up a colony and a beehive and you
Mhm.
really truly understand the hierarchy and how they operate.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
mind blowing. It really is. It's one of the most fascinating things I've ever seen in my life. And when you first see the queen, it's like spotting a needle out of a haystack of thousands of the same. It's almost near impossible. But when you do see her,
Uh-huh.
one of the most amazing things ever because she is this single organism, the single insect that is traveling through this hive and she's just laying eggs all day and they all are just surrounding her and they work for her.
Right, right. And my
Yeah.
daughter asked me a question because she's very much into nature and learning. Great kid. She had this thing though, and I was like, "Are you sure about that?" And I think I told her I was going to ask you. I told her I had a podcast today with a beekeeper, and we're going to find out because and we maybe I can't remember if we put it to a bet or not. Probably it is like I have to get her McDonald's or something, which I probably will have to anyway. Either way, but she said this thing, and I was like, "This can't be true." And it's about the queen bee, and she said that some beekeepers part of the process is putting the queen bee in like a little box, a little wooden box, and then putting like fondant or frosting around it. And the bees eat the frosting, the queen eats, and they get to know each other. Is that true?
Yeah, okay, that is partially true. Yeah.
I'm buying
So
McDonald's tonight.
yeah, actually, yeah, you're gonna have to get her a Happy Meal. So that in that case, I've actually done that twice.
Whoa.
Yes. So that you do that when you're incorporating a new queen to a colony.
Okay.
So let's say your queen gets sick, the
Yeah.
original queen, she gets sick, she dies off, or she flies off, or
Mm.
when you're doing an inspection and you're pulling a frame, accidents happen. You might
Ugh.
crush her if you're not
Oh,
gentle.
it feels so bad. Oh God. Okay.
And with beginner beekeepers, it
Sure.
happens.
You don't know.
It happens, and we
Oh.
all make mistakes.
Yep.
So I had to replace two of my queens. So in that process, you actually can go to a queen breeder,
Well,
beekeepers that breed queens specifically.
all queens. Nice.
You buy a queen, and what they do is they send you a queen in a box, and
Okay.
at that entrance
Yep.
is a sugar wax type of plug.
Yeah.
And what that does is, like you said, a fondant.
Uh-huh.
It gives time for the colony to eat their way through and for the queen to eat their way through. And during that process, about 24 hours,
Yeah.
queen's pheromone will
Mm-hmm.
spread through the colony, because if
Yeah.
you drop her in there
Uh-huh.
without that initial time to get acclimated,
Oh yeah,
they
they'll be
will
like,
maul
who's
her.
this? They'll be like, you're
They'll kill her.
yeah, they'll be like, not my queen. And
Exactly.
then okay, so yep, all right. Well, Indy, you were right. If you're listening to this, mom was wrong.
Yeah.
You're right. Very cool. And now after you were you took part in this and you learned and learned, the next step was to custom design an apiary for this
Yeah.
facility. So let's talk about that. Tell us like what goes into that.
So, a lot of work, and planning. Planning was key.
Mm-hmm.
And we knew we had a time frame of a certain week that we were going to inherit these beehives from the beekeeper who I actually was training under.
Oh, that's so great. So he was like, yes, pass these on to you. Okay.
He actually had to move, and he
Mm-hmm.
called me and said, "Listen, I think there's nobody else who I would rather give these to right now and will care for them as much as you will. So I'm going to donate them."
Nice.
So we got that date and we hit the ground running. We said, what kind of structure can we build that's cost effective, that's also sustainable out of recycled or repurposed materials?
Mm-hmm.
So we went on Etsy. We were looking for ideas, DIY, do it yourself, all this, all
Yeah.
these ideas. And we came across this idea of pallet fencing.
Huh.
So what's one thing that a facility like this has a lot of? Delivery pallets.
Pallets.
Stacks and stacks of delivery pallets. So what
Nice.
we did was we spoke to our receiving manager and we said, listen, instead of returning those pallets, we want you to start stacking them every week. So between
Cool.
stacking those pallets, going around to local businesses, Wegmans, supermarkets, we
Oh, I
explained,
love Wegmans. Come
yeah,
to Ohio, Wegmans, if you're listening.
yeah. So the Wegmans in West Harrison, or there's one, I think it's West Harrison or White Plains. I reached out to their sustainability office and I told them our plan and I asked for some support.
Sweet. Yeah.
And they were so happy to help us. They donated like 20 brand new pallets that were, it's not brand new, they were used, but Wegmans has great quality everything.
Yeah, right. They're like the finest of the best
So we,
pallets. Yeah.
we got the finest of used pallets.
That's awesome. Super
So
cool.
yeah, we sat down, we drew out a plan, and we broke the ground and we started digging trenches in August.
Wow. There
Yeah,
was digging going on. So what was there before? Was it just sort of like an open area? Like a
grass.
okay, just grass.
A
Okay.
whole plot of grass that had tons of great sunlight, which is
Nice.
great for bees.
They love the sun.
They love the sun, and it's important for the winter that that hive heats up during the day.
It's kept them warm. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That is so cool. And you are, just to remind everybody of your location, it's in New York, sort of like near Connecticut. I looked on a map.
Yep.
And what's the name of the city?
Armonk,
Or what
Ar-
is it?
Armonk, New York.
Armonk. How do you say? Because
Armonk.
every town in New York State, I say it wrong. I was just driving through it and I was like, what could I mispronounce now? Because
Yeah.
I have said, I think it's called Poughkeepsie, I guess. I was saying something
Yeah,
different.
Poughkeepsie.
Poughkeepsie, I got it.
Yeah.
There's a few. There's a few. But yeah, and it seemed when I Googled it, it's like the town it's kind of like a company town of IBM. Like that's like it's known for like this is where the IBM headquarters is, right? Like
Yep.
that's
Yep.
the first thing you see when you Google it. So yeah.
And it's the IBM corporate, world headquarters
Yes.
located here. So we're
For everything. Yeah.
yeah. So we run one of the three main buildings. We're the conference and hotel center.
Gotcha. Very cool. And so
Yeah.
this is something that's a sustainability draw for a convention center type setting, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's definitely been a huge sustainability aspect, and incorporating this into our overall sustainability plan to move forward. We talk about as a population moving to more
Oh yeah.
plan forward food recipes,
It's part of
dehydrating.
it. Yep.
Yeah. So, to incorporate with our honeybees, our company FLIK has incorporated a program called Waste Not 2.0. And what that really does is you're separating and you're keeping an eye on your green waste versus your
Yeah.
red waste. So we purchased a dehydrator, and what we do is all of those scraps from your carrot peels and any scraps that would normally be discarded, we're actually taking those,
Hmm.
dehydrating them, and we turn those into products that can be used in salad dressings,
Oh,
dish
wow.
garnishes. Yeah, so that's another aspect. It's a whole nother
Yeah, yeah, very
topic.
cool. I know this is like there's lots of things to do. And
Yeah,
I've definitely it's surprising, like as I started like just covering just compost, like how interesting it is. It's like I'm always like enthralled when people talk about composting. You wouldn't think that it would be exciting, but that something like that really is. But you're talking about dehydrating and then using it um for like a product that you're using. So
yeah.
that's cool. And yeah, let's get into boy, I'm sorry. I've been like a buzzing little bee around of like all our topics.
Oh,
I have not stuck
keep
to our
hitting
talking
me. I
points
could
the
talk
way.
all day.
Oh man, yeah, because it's almost like I've got so many questions. But let's
Yeah,
let's get back to that spinning. The inaugural. So you
yeah,
have this place. The place is set up. It's functioning. You've got your first honey like over the winter and spring, right? And then so this last thing that you did recently was a celebration. So talk about the spinning, I think.
yeah. So this was our first honey harvest as a property. It was the success of the bees surviving the winter and now foraging from the flowers on property within the 2 mile radius.
That's their first food. It's the little dandelions, right? That's what I've
Yeah.
heard. That's why I don't mow my lawn, neighbors. If you're listening, no, I mow it now. We're all good. But in the
Exactly.
beginning, you got to leave it out for their food.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to leave them honey over the winter to survive. So now
Oh yeah,
we we could truly say as a property that this honey harvest was ours now. That even though
yeah,
we inherited the bees, last year's harvest, I didn't feel comfortable, you know,
yeah. Like
taking,
not a little bit. Okay, that's fair. Yeah,
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 I could truly say
yeah.
we consume them, and now we've taken care of them, and then as a property we've maintained, we've managed them, and now they're ours. And this was our first harvest of honey that we got from a 2 mile 3 mile radius of our property.
Oh yeah. So what did the harvest look like? I've seen people do it. Did you have some action stations doing it and then do
we
some behind the scenes as well, I would guess?
So what we did was there were 4 stations, and we put the extractor, it's a crank, inside the
Oh,
kitchen.
is that where the spinning comes in? Is that
Yes, yes.
oh, okay? Okay. So I've seen that. I
So
do know what that is. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So you take these frames, and it's a cylinder, a dome,
Yeah.
and it fits 3 of these frames inside, and they go in vertically,
Hmm.
and you take off. Now, when honey is ready to be harvested, the bees will seal it with wax,
Hmm.
and that tells you that it's ready to be harvested. If it's not sealed, that means it's not fully dehydrated yet.
They're not done with it yet.
They're not done with it yet, and that's a common mistake. That
Oh,
if
probably because I can see you'd be so excited and just it's too soon though. You got to
I
wait.
was
You have to have patience. It teaches you like
so
life
that's so
skills.
that's funny you said that. So a week prior, I was taking the frames out and I was looking at them, and I was like, it was like 75% done. I was like, oh,
You have
we're
to
almost
wait.
there. I was like, you got to go back in.
For
So
sure.
after you pop the wax off, the frames go in and you crank it and it spins it, and that force actually shoots the honey out to the sides and it falls down.
Nice.
And then we have a filter on the bottom because you want to separate the wax cappings from the actual honey.
Yeah, even though you can eat that though. I mean, you can eat pieces of a comb, just chew them up. It's
You
fine.
can, you can. I personally like it. We
I do
served that
too.
on our station last night with the raw comb cutting.
Hmm. Yeah, I think some people, I mean, obviously, like if you it's not for everybody, but you can kind of chew on it. Like it's nothing bad. It's if you've never had a honeycomb and just taken a bite, just like a
Yeah,
bear, just do it. Just
yeah,
bite that
absolutely,
honeycomb.
absolutely.
It's
And
worth it.
the our honey simply just filtered once because
Hmm.
we don't heat it. We want to keep
No, it's
it raw
raw.
and
Yeah.
as natural as possible to keep all of those beneficial properties that are in there, right? To help
Yeah, yeah.
cheese,
Oh,
all those great properties.
that's awesome. So what is as a chef, like what are some of the menu items that like your imagination has led to that want to when you want to show off the honey?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We last night we did some infused we did a Long Island duck dish, which I
Mm.
love duck. I love preparing it. It's one of my favorite things to cook.
Oh yeah,
You
so
gotta,
good.
yeah, yeah. So we infused some honey, some lavender honey, and we drizzled that on top of some Long Island duck breast last night. We also did a collaboration with another FLIK chef who is an amazing chef. His name's Paul. He came up with a block of, so we did a block of feta and we baked it in the oven with some really great olive oil.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, smothered it with some honey, threw it under the broiler. It kind of caramelized, and then he
What?
finished it with some sumac and wildflower garnish. It was yeah, amazing.
That sounds so amazing. I have a little bit of feta in my fridge right now. I'm gonna try that.
Yeah, oh, it's I can send you the
Definitely.
recipe for it. It's absolutely amazing.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I bet our readers would like that too. So maybe I would love to share some of your recipes because I think you've got a couple that like just from looking over look amazing. And also for cocktails and mocktails, you guys are using honey, right?
So you got to hear this one. So
Yes.
it was this dessert we did last night, and it was a play on an old fashioned, the drink.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
So it was a burnt. It was, what was it? Let's see. The chef, we ordered these little, not templates, but they were honeycomb twirls
Oh
that
yeah, yeah, yeah. I know what those are. There
so
were when you make those funnel cakes or that kind of
yes,
yeah.
yep. So it was a panna cotta, right? A burnt
Mm-hmm.
honey
Oh,
panna cotta with local bourbon
ooh.
and honey twirl on top, and it looked like an old fashioned that you would get at the bar. So it was phenomenal. Yeah,
That is cool. I like that. Just, yeah, getting creative. Honey lends itself so much to just so many different things because it's an emulsifier for dressing too, which is cool.
so many things.
It's great. Oh my gosh. Very cool. So, how did you? What I wanted to ask you was I was going to ask you where you're from, but the way that you say Long Island, I feel like you are from Long Island.
Uh,
So,
okay,
where did you grow up and how did you become a chef?
so I'm from Westchester.
Okay.
My wife is from Long Island,
Oh,
so
that's where you got the accent. Okay.
maybe not. But I grew up local here in a
Hmm.
small town in Pleasantville. That's actually 10 minutes from Armonk here.
Mm.
A funny coincidence how that happened. Because I did a lot of traveling.
Hmm.
So I was in Florida for a while, working at hotels down there, and for primarily the beginning of my career, for the first 9 years, I was a restaurant and hotel chef.
Hmm.
Was not a corporate dining chef.
You weren't even thinking about that, probably.
Wasn't
Or,
even thinking
yeah,
about it. And
yeah.
this is kind of where it landed. I went to culinary school, got my first sous chef job in Manhattan.
Whoa, fancy.
Yeah, it was in a really up and coming area, Tribeca, and it
Hmm.
was this little French cafe, and I worked 100 hours a week, and
Oh
it was
my gosh. Was that so exciting for you though? Did you feel like I am really doing this? Like I'm a chef in New York City, right in Manhattan. I mean, didn't you feel like
no,
so badass at that
I
point?
did. I did. And it was what a time to be alive, because at 20 I was 22 years old, and
Hmm.
I was fresh out of culinary school, and I got my first sous chef job in Manhattan working for this awesome chef.
Yeah.
We were I was learning everything.
You
How
were
to
living your life. It probably was
yeah,
real hard though, too. Real hard work, I would guess.
could I do that now? No shot.
Uh,
I would be the life was not sustainable, to say the
yeah,
least.
yeah,
And
right.
it was living off of espresso, 3 hours of sleep. Sometimes I would sleep at the restaurant.
Uh-huh.
It was wild.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
you're in Manhattan. I'm walking
Yeah.
to Little Italy to pick
Yeah.
up mozzarella that was just made. I'm walking to
Oh,
China to pick up fish.
so
So
cool. Yeah, yeah.
you can't replace those
Uh,
experiences.
It's true. It's true. So that's very cool experience. And then how did you mature and happen and
It
get
took a
the
couple. It took a couple years. I bounced from restaurants to private country clubs,
Mhm.
high-end clubs, still working your life away. But listen, there's benefits to everything.
Oh
There
yeah.
are pros and cons.
There's seasons of your life. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So, I think I was about 28, and I
Mm.
said to myself, I said, where really is my life going? Is it going to be
Hmm.
working every holiday and every weekend and every night for the rest of my life?
No, you don't want
No,
that.
I didn't want that. I really didn't. So I had knew a friend of a friend who had worked for Compass Group, and she said that her career, her life had really took a change for the better. She went corporate dining
Mm-hmm.
and she had a life and she was so happy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I did some research and there was a job opening and it didn't say FLIK, it just said Compass Group, Armagh. I
Mm-hmm.
applied for the job. I did a phone interview with
Mm-hmm.
actually Danny Weissel, one of the chefs who I am still in constant contact with. He's an awesome guy.
Oh yeah, he's a big name with the group. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's an awesome chef, and he was one of the first chefs who I interviewed with, and I did my tasting for.
Okay.
So I came to this location. I did a chef tasting, and they offered me the job that day. And then from there, the rest is history. That was about 6 years ago.
Nice. And do you feel like the beekeeping stuff might kind of be your legacy there that you leave for it, like once you start retiring, like this is going to be here like longer than you? Do you feel that way?
I do, and I hope so, because
Mhm.
I'll tell you, we dug those trenches, and those fences ain't going nowhere.
Nice. Yeah, that's really hard work. That really is.
Yeah, and I guess good leadership is about empowering your people and also not just leaving a legacy, but training your people to assume those standards that you left for them, right?
Hmm.
So not only do as an individual, as a chef, do I want to grow, but I want my staff to grow, right?
Hmm.
So that's what we do here. It's a lot about training, it's a lot about leadership. So I already have one of my cooks who I am teaching the beekeeping process.
Nice. That
So
really is in any workplace. It's like teaching and helping and like
yeah,
bringing people up. So I think that's definitely a great thing. And I wanted to see what are some future things that you want to try or on the culinary side or something that kind of has caught your eye that you're like, we should do this.
it's a great question. It really is. And right now, I'm kind of I wouldn't say finish this project, but I
Yeah.
still have so much work to do with this project.
Oh yeah.
I'm still kind of like wrapping my head around. Had our first harvest, and it's still kind of surreal.
It is. It is. And you have to continue. I mean, it's a continuing thing. So we're going to be, checking in on these bees and wondering, did you have anything to get over about like having them all over your body? Because somebody told me once that the older the beekeeper, the less clothes they wear. So like when you're an old man, you go out there in like a Speedo and you're just totally cool with it.
So I have seen so many beekeepers with no gloves. Some don't even wear hats, and
No,
I'm
I
not at
want
that level.
everything. I want the full thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still wearing top to bottom full suit with boots because you know
Heck yeah. It
it it,
hurts.
it does. It really does. And the second that I thought that I was comfortable enough with them and that I was experienced enough, wrong, right? You get stung if you're not careful
Oh my
enough.
gosh.
And they'll
Isn't nature just that way? If you get too cocky, it
yeah,
will let you know.
immediately,
Very
immediately.
true. Yeah, no, this is just all so interesting. And I'm going to definitely follow up with you and we're going to share with our readers and watchers and listeners some of your recipes too.
Yeah,
So
of course.
really happy to know you and looking forward to working more with you and doing some collaborations. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.